Welcome back. This is Lesson 11, Autodesk Inventor Beginner Series. In this lesson, we are going to create a part that looks like this. As we said at the end of the last lesson, we will use the Revolve feature. We're going to use it to cut this shape on the end of this part this time. As we have before created a part, created a shape with Revolve feature. This time we're going to take an existing part. Let's look at how we'll start. We'll start with just a hexagonal chunk of material, add a couple of holes to it, and then we will use a Revolve feature to cut away and make that shape on the end of this part. Again, not a real part, not a how to create an exact quick disconnect fitting. Maybe that's what this looks like, but simply how to use the features in Inventor to get a shape like this. Add a couple of fillets and a chamfer. That's what our finished part will look like. So let's go ahead and go up here and create a new part and get started. We will start a 2D sketch again on the XY plane. Whereas previous parts we've started with lines and circles and rectangles. If we click the drop down arrow under the rectangle, we get polygon. Let's create a polygon that starts at the origin. I can drag out anywhere I want and leave that there. Right click and say OK. See all of these constraint symbols that have popped up here. My computer's not cooperating at the moment. The F8 button should make all of these symbols appear. The 9 button on your keyboard would make them go away. For whatever reason, my computer doesn't want to do that. We can come down here to the bottom. This shows the current state. Hit F8, see they pop up and that little symbol changes. I'm going to click that to hide, get that cleaned up a little bit. So now I have my hexagon. I need to constrain it fully. It says in the bottom corner 2 dimensions are needed. Let's put our 1 inch dimension on that. And I also need to, see it jump around. I also need to place a horizontal constraint on that top line. So that sticks me in place. Everything does turn black. The sketch is fully constrained. I can finish this sketch and create my first extrusion at 1.5 inches. Now let's sketch on one end face, create a new sketch there, create a whole center point, click right on the middle, right click, say OK, finish that sketch. Then we will create a hole on there. If we come over to the last option, see the taper tapped hole. That is a pipe fitting NPT or other tapered threads. In this case, we will use just a regular NPT. Make that a 1/2 inch NPT. Give it a depth. Termination option, select depth. And we will make that 0.750. Click OK. Now spin around to the other end of the part. Sketch on that opposite face. Put a hole center there. Finish that sketch. Click hole again. This time go back to just a simple hole, make it go through all, and we will use a 3/8 diameter through that part. Now it is time to create that cutout with our Revolve command. I need a plane to sketch on. Let's see what options we have. See the XZ plane cuts through the flat face of the part. I don't want that. I want to get all the way out here to the edge, the X. See the XY plane cuts through the flat faces of the part. I don't want that. I want to be... See the YZ plane cuts through the flat faces of the part. I don't want that. I want to be all the way out here at the edge. Let's check XZ. That is the one that we want. The XZ plane goes all the way out to the corners. Let's look what XY would have been. XY. It's just off the end face of that part. So we go back to the XZ plane and start a 2D sketch. Hit F7 and that will cut through the part. Now I can begin in here creating that profile that I'm going to cut away. Since this is again a revolve, I need a center line so I can dimension my diameters. Come down here to this origin point. Drag up. Let's let that snap to the other endpoint of the part. I will not be creating any geometry that actually, I will not be creating any part profile geometry that uses this center line. So let's turn off center line and let's make that Since this is a revolve, we want to create a center line. Let's create a line, make it center line, come down here to the origin, come all the way up through the part, say OK, and finish that. Now let's turn off center line. We don't want to create any more center lines. Let's make this construction geometry, since we are not going to be using this line for any of our profile that we will be revolving. And just so that our sketch is fully constrained, let's place a coincident constraint from the endpoint of this line onto the top edge of the part, and that gets it locked into place. We can draw our profile that we're going to cut around either side. Let's work off to the right here, get at a spot where we can kind of see what we're doing. And we will start a line, make sure we are regular sketch geometry. We're not center line, we're not construction geometry. Let's start by coming down here to this first bottom edge, draw a vertical line, and then come out to the outer edge of the part, come back down to the corner, and then back to where we started to close that profile. Give this a diameter, 0.750. Give this an angle here of 120 degrees. And then from the face of the part back to this intersection, let's make that 0.550. Now everything we have up to this point is fully constrained, but I need to cut out a little V-shaped notch here. Let's create a line again. Come down here, click on our vertical line, move the mouse, click on our vertical line, move the mouse out to the left a little bit, come down, come back to the vertical line. Notice it gave us a vertical constraint for that line, so that's good. We didn't have any other weird constraints pop up on that line, so we can begin dimensioning and adding a couple of constraints if we need to get that groove set where it needs to be. Create a dimension down here from the bottom up to that first point. This one's 0.15. Let's put an angle between these two. You can either come here, put a 45-degree angle. Gets the same thing if I did a 135-degree angle on the outside. Let's put a 45-degree angle inside here. We'll put another 45-degree angle inside there. Make the width, the bottom of this groove, be 60 thousandths. Now what do we like? We need a distance from here to the bottom of the groove. We need the depth of that groove. Make it 65. Everything is now constrained. You can say OK. If we want, we can trim out this middle section. Let's go up here to trim, come back, click that middle section. All right, now see what happened. We lost some of our constraints. Some things went away. Let's go ahead and put that back. We'll see what happens if we have two separate profiles in our sketch when we go to revolve this. Let's finish sketch. Our sketch again disappeared inside the part, but we say revolve. It is not auto-selecting because we have two different profiles in here, but if I move the mouse over the part, I know where that sketch is. You can see it highlight one region of that sketch, and I come down, get to where we can see that. There, it gets the other region of that sketch as well. Select an axis for rotation. When I go to that, it knows there is a center line drawn through that, so it auto-selects that for me. It is trying to create solid geometry here. I don't want to create more geometry. I want to cut. There is my preview of that being cut away. When I say OK, I get the full profile then of that part. Let's add a few fillets to this. Let's make a little Let's add a few fillets to this. Let's make a little radius 15 thousandths there. We'll put it on that outside corner. Those corners all the way back. Put it down on these inside corners. That gets that. And then add a little chamfer. Let's make it a 20 thousandths chamfer on the inside edge of that hole. See, this one is sort of a brass color. Maybe this is a brass fitting. Come up here to the top. I don't think we've done this before, but the adjust button. Now if we take our little dropper, move it till it gets the edge of the part. Everything highlights, outlines the part. We don't want just one face. We want the whole part. So click on that and then click sort of in the top of that circle. Get the nice orangey brass color. Let's call this one done. If you want to save it as lesson 11. And we're good to go. Come back for lesson 12. Come back for lesson 12, where we will move on from Revolve for now and learn to use the sweep command. We'll see you then.